I have to say, looking at my social media feed, I now see more of you than I see of my own husband and daughter.
Oh, Julia, thank you. Well, that doesn't sound very good, but thank you.
You are all over social media. Some pictures last night from you at a Speaker's Corner at Hyde Park, surrounded by people. You've been playing an absolute blind of a social media campaign. But is this actually going to win you support from either Tory MPs or Tory party members to actually vote for you to be the leader?
I think that's a really good challenge. Tory party members, I think, is probably easier than Tory MPs. But as you say, to get through the first round, I need the Tory MPs. So what's very important is to demonstrate to Tory MPs that the level of support that I'm getting translates into winning an election, because the only way we can change the country or make it a better place is by winning an election.
Well, indeed, it's a fair point. But in terms of winning an election, can you win an election as somebody who wants to effectively be Theresa May Mark II, trying to deliver the withdrawal agreement? She failed to do it. Now, I'm sure that you exhibit rather more charm and perversity than the current Prime Minister. But we've been told, haven't we, ad nauseum by the European Union leaders, by Jean-Claude Juncker, Donald Tusk, Michel Barnier and others, the European withdrawal agreement is not up for renegotiation.
Exactly. And I think the only candidate really in this race that's being honest about that. I'm not proposing to renegotiate the
But you're proposing to try and get that deal through when we already know the Commons won't vote it through.
No, what we know is that the Commons wouldn't take it through under Theresa May. And we know that we got about 270 votes. Still the quickest, surest way of getting Brexit done is to get that deal through. We could have been out by March if we'd got it through. And the fundamental problem with what the other candidates are selling is they're selling delay. They're definitely not going to be able to get no deal through Parliament. They're definitely not going to be able to renegotiate with Brussels. And what I'm worried about is that their recipes are going to leave us still in the European Union next year. So somebody like me who wants to get Brexit done, you've got to recognise that the bloc is Parliament and that the key is to unlock Parliament.
But the bloc in Parliament is from two sides. It's from Remainers, who now smell the blood of possibility of a second referendum. And it's also the bloc of Leavers, who say that, well, as I would argue as a Leave voter, the Prime Minister's withdrawal agreement, as written in the actual main text, the legal text, is not Brexit. It's Brino. It's Brexit in name only, in which case they're never going to be persuaded, are they?
Well, Julia, it's still got to go through Parliament. So the best way of getting it through Parliament is to try to take the 270 votes that voted for the withdrawal agreement and get 45 Labour votes over to vote for it. And unlocking Parliament, the best way of doing it is to do what they did in Ireland over the issue of abortion, which is to hold a Brexit assembly, take it out of Parliament for 3 weeks, give people, citizens like a jury, a chance to go through the issues in public, make their recommendations to Parliament, and then drive it through Parliament. Going for no deal is really not going to work. We know for sure that there's not a majority for no deal, and we'll still be stuck in the European Union middle of next year.
But the legal position currently right now is that we can have no deal. We don't need to get a Commons vote for it, whether or not Parliament needed prorogued or not. A Tory party leader who believed in Brexit, who wanted to do the proper planning, could deliver a no-deal Brexit. We don't need MPs of any party to support it. They effectively already have when they actually invoked Article 50.
But Julia, remember that the legal position is only that because Parliament voted to make that the legal position. Parliament, if it wants to block no deal Brexit, can vote to stop that being the legal position. In the end, this is a parliamentary democracy. So some of these candidates can swagger around pretending that what they're going to do is behave like Charles I and try to lock Parliament. But in the end, it's not going to work. The Speaker, particularly now John Bercow has announced that he's extending, will work with Parliament to get the type of Brexit that Parliament wants. There are no shortcuts here. There's a lot of macho swaggering and people pretending that they can sometimes drive it through. That legal default is a legal default from Parliament, and Parliament can change that legal default.
You talk a lot about, you mentioned this parliamentary democracy, but it was Parliament again that voted for us to have a referendum in the first place, voted to accept that referendum result and to trigger Article 50. We saw in 2017, we saw more than 80% of people voting for the Tory party, Labour Party, who said they would deliver Brexit. We've seen those votes again and again. 3 times we've had votes in Parliament against the withdrawal agreement, saying this is not the Brexit that wants to be delivered.
Julia, 1 second, sorry. And just to challenge it, remember there were about 35 people voting against it last time, saying it's not the Brexit we wanted. But the majority of people voting against it were Remainers trying to keep us in the European Union. So what actually happened is that the hard Brexiteers ended up teaming up with the Remainers in order to stop us getting Brexit through. We could have got Brexit through. We could have been out by March if only we hadn't had this unholy alliance of unrealistic hard Brexiteers pushing for something they're never going to get, and Remainers trying to frustrate the will of the people. So somebody like me, who believes in that referendum, who wants to carry through the democratic will, been pushing to get Brexit through. The reason it hasn't got through is that there is a small group, about 35 people, pushing for a version of hard Brexit, which the majority of the British people do not want.
But also a majority of the British people also say they don't want the Prime Minister's withdrawal agreement. And if it suddenly becomes Prime Minister Rory Stewart's withdrawal agreement, it's not going to suddenly have a different text, is it? It's going to be the same document in black and white. Voters aren't stupid. If they don't like it now, they're not going to like it because it's got your name attached to it.
You're right about a lot of that, but I think most people now want to get Brexit done. And that withdrawal agreement takes you out of the European Union, out of all the institutions of the European Union.
But it doesn't. That's the whole point. It doesn't. It ties our hands and we'll never be able to escape. And it's a cunning wheeze by the Ramona Civil Service and the European Union to keep us tied in for years. And that's exactly why Leavers voted against it.
Julian, no. It takes us out of the European Parliament, out of the European Commission, out of any fantasies of future European armies.
Stuck in a customs union forever.
Is Turkey in the European Union? Do you think Turkey is in the institutions of the European Union?
We're stuck.
Where does this thing about a customs union somehow being in the institutions of the European Union? Do you think Turkey is in the European Union?
The ability to make free trade deals and not be affected by the trade deals that the European Union makes in terms of our own trade, yes, absolutely effectively does leave us. Let me finally make
This is really, really important because when people suggest that Turkey is in the European Union, they're not being straight.
No, but I didn't suggest that. You just said I didn't say
obviously, Turkey is not in the European Union. Obviously, even in the worst case scenario, if people were to have voted for the Prime Minister's deal or even the customs union, we would have had the relationship that Turkey has the European Union, but a much bigger, much more powerful economy than Turkey, and we would have been out of the European Union. The question you're talking about is tariffs and quotas on goods, which are important for our car industry and agriculture, but nothing to do with the political setup of the European Union.
No, I said effectively into a customs union. Just finally, Rory Stewart, because time is against us, sir. You stood, like every Conservative MP in 2017, on a manifesto that said, in black and white, I'm getting bored with having to read this out to candidates, that said, we believe that no deal is better than a bad deal. Did you tell your constituents when you stood on that manifesto that you didn't actually think that?
No, I absolutely believe no deal is better than a bad deal, but we have, Julia, a good deal. And if you read the manifesto also commits us to an orderly withdrawal from the European Union. So anyone advocating for no deal is breaking that manifesto.
You can perfectly easily have an orderly withdrawal from the European Union under WTO terms.
Not under any of these plans. It would be extremely disorderly, and everybody knows that. And they would be letting down their constituents and their manifesto promises they had.
But you say no deal would be catastrophic, but we've had ministers, the former Brexit no deal minister, Chris Heaton-Harris. We've had the current Brexit minister dealing with that issue, James Cleverly, saying nothing of the sort. There's plenty of preparations that have gone on. There won't be a catastrophe, it won't be chaos at all.
So think through the sheep farmers in my area in Cumbria. Think through what would happen to dairy farmers in Northern Ireland. Think through what would happen to our motor industry.
So are your colleagues wrong?
Yes, they are on that. I'm afraid they are wrong.
Okay, Rory Stewart, thank you very much. Just find out, I must ask you quickly, 1922 Select Backbench Committee of MPs is meeting today to decide the rules on who can and can't stand in the Tory leadership. May actually have a particular number to get over, not just a proposer in a second. It could be up to maybe a total of 12 Tory MPs backing. Are you confident that on Monday, when the nominations open and then close at the end of the day, that you will have enough support to be able to be a candidate in those leadership elections?
Nothing in politics can you be confident about because it's a secret ballot and it's one of the most unreliable electorates in the universe. But yes, I'm beginning to get more support coming in, and a lot of that is because I'm beginning to demonstrate that I can get the support in the public and win an election. And I'm able to get 2 million people currently following posts and videos I'm doing on Brexit or adult social care. That's well beyond any of these other candidates. And I think in the end, the ability to regain people's trust, communicate with the public and heal the country, bring it together again, get out of these divisions is going to be very important for the next Prime Minister.